Hey guys, my name is Jan, and I'm playing Skyrim again. Whoa, what the... Oh, okay. It feels like every 2 to 5 years, I get totally obsessed with a game that I've definitely played through way too many times. For me, those games have been Skyrim, Borderlands 2, and Monster Hunter World. So what is it about these games that draws me back every time and is strong enough that it becomes my main game to play every night? Well, I'm gonna go over that today in this video. So sit back, relax, and let's go!
I will pay you to kill yourself.
This one is probably the franchise I'm most fond with, but at the same time, I'm most sad to think about. What do I mean? Well, the third most hyped up entry of the game was so bad that a legit retcon for the story would be a good idea. And every single game after Borderlands 3 is a flop. Especially Tales from the Borderlands. I despise that game from the bottom of my heart. And now we're getting a Borderlands movie! With too many bad things to report on for this video. Anyway, I first played Borderlands 2 in 2013, and I was absolutely hooked on the game. I still remember being in a Best Buy and the employee telling me about how it's the latest and greatest game to test with a new PC. I have a lot of fond memories just playing the game and doing all the side quests. The gameplay was addictive, the story and characters were all charismatic, and there was a lot to do. Even then, I would just pick up this game and start a new run many times, as well as beating the game on each character. This game also has a ton of DLCs, so yay, content! Each new run also has many different kinds of guns you can get. You can also just get lucky by getting a legendary drop that'll make the run different from the rest. Like, I still remember one of my runs where I got a legendary drop from Knuckle Dragger, the first boss, and that carried me way too long. In regards to the story, it has fantastic staying power in my opinion, especially with Handsome Jack. The story doesn't get old to go through. A lot of people talk about how the humor has aged poorly or just isn't funny anymore, but I kinda disagree. I still think a majority of this game is funny and enjoyable to listen to, especially when you compare it to a game like Borderlands 3. Borderlands 2 came out in 2012 and was a product of its time, but it still holds up well. A game like Borderlands 3 came out in 2019 and somehow aged poorly on arrival in terms of story. Borderlands 2's story, a lot of people say like, oh, this is like 2012 humor, it's not funny anymore. But then you look at Borderlands 3, which actually is 2012 humor that like nobody even liked, I think even in 2012.
Totally unarmed. Can't let them know you're afraid and totally defenseless, bro. Bandit life!
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So yeah, mini rant over. Anyway, as for mods, this game more has like mods that change the entire game, not just specific things, or at least from what I could find. Talking quality of life, character changes, and gameplay changes, they're all packed into one thing. I want to say the last one I played was Borderlands 2 Reborn, and that one was pretty good. I think what gets me going to play Borderlands 2 every time is when I'm out and about, I'll just think, damn, playing a Zero was so fun. Then suddenly, the game is installed. I will say it remains my least played out of these three, just cause getting invested in Borderlands is like bashing your head against a wall with how poorly this IP is handled. I could say more about how bad they've handled this franchise, but it all has really come down to me not being interested in getting invested as much. Seeing one of my favorite childhood games in shambles has been disappointing, but at least I can play Borderlands 2 over and over again. The monster game. Monster Hunter World released in 2018 and has single-handedly gotten me into the Monster Hunter series. And every time I get back into it, I gotta get used to how weird this game looks. It's got this weird blur that goes over the whole game, and I know it's got this weird blur because when I play Monster Hunter Rise, there's no blur, it just looks normal. But maybe that helps the world because it feels so unique. This game has a lot of nuance with the monsters and interactions, but once you've played it for long enough, you kinda streamline it. Like, you know spots of the map to trigger events to trap or hurt the monster, or breakable objects to throw them into, and so on. Especially with the Clutch Claw, that makes the game kind of really easy sometimes. So one might think, doesn't that get boring? You already know everything about this game. No, because there are 14 weapons that each are unique, and maybe not all of them are fun, but they've got depth. And as for monsters, there's a lot. I've done runs where I main only one weapon and realized some monsters are harder to fight with certain weapons. So in my head, I've just got this like matchup chart of what weapons to use against certain monsters. That's just a me thing though. You can pretty much main a single weapon and use it against all monsters and be fine. Now the mods for this game are mostly quality of life and visual, so nothing crazy there. All in all, this game just has a great feeling. When you're fighting a monster, you really feel the hunt because of how long it takes, and from how you have to like find the monster, then chase it, all that. And unlike Borderlands, it's got a really exciting game coming up, which doesn't scare me from getting invested. Yay! Good video games! And IP's not getting tarnished in front of my eyes. And if you were wondering, I mained the insect glaive. It's my favorite weapon. Yeah. Last thing I'll say is a common theme with all these games is that they have a satisfying progression system, but Monster Hunter specifically feels the most rewarding. It's hard to describe it, but it's sort of like gathering each individual ingredient for a new fancy dish. And that dish just keeps getting better and better, and the quality of the ingredients requires you to go further and further out. Weird fucking way to describe it, but basically the point is that this game feels fun to progress through and improve upon. Monster Hunter World also has a neat endgame, but I will admit it's a wee bit too grindy for me to want to stick to, especially when the progression is all said and done. Like if I don't have a new armor or weapon set to go for, then I'll probably just speedrun some monsters and be done with it. What's happening? I guess we're gonna go to Alduin by flying there. I'm not moving the mouse at all at this point. What's happening? Dude, I didn't even do anything. I have like 7 mods that are just. I'm looking at. Whoa! Skyrim. Last but not least, the game that is subject to 12-hour video essays, and for good reason. This game is great, but also has a lot of flaws, especially when compared to its previous entries. I played this game when I was a kid. It was magical. The world felt so dense and full of stuff to do. Now growing up, I know that's not 100% the truth, you know, but it's a lot better than some of the new open world games that are empty, barren, nothing burger worlds. Skyrim will always have this feeling of, get ready for this immersion! Even after all this time, I think this game is great. It's got flaws, but you don't need an 8-hour video essay for me to tell you that. Thankfully enough, the modding scene out of the 3 is so big that any issues you have with this game probably has a mod to fix that thing. The modding scene is so big that this game feels more like a sandbox to add mods to, rather than a full-ass game. That's not to say you need mods. No, not at all. Sometimes playing vanilla can be pretty fun actually, but at this point, stacking my mods upwards of 200 is fairly normal for me when I play again. Now personally, the one thing about Skyrim that to me I need a mod for is that skill trees are pretty lackluster, ranging from useless skills to comedically broken skills. Case in point, the sneak tree, just one-shotting everything and making every NPC blind and deaf towards you. There's just a lot of better ways they could have gone about this, and other trees as well. So having a mod to rebalance the skill trees or actually just overhaul them is pretty nice. Let's say you wanted to do a mage playthrough. Well, you got mods that adds hundreds of new spells all throughout the world. Some mods are pretty insane. Some people gather together mods to create a mod pack that make the game look entirely different. I've straight up seen mod packs that make the game into Witcher 3. Some mods also just add DLC-sized content, and some mods actually just make Skyrim into a new game. So out of these 3 games, Skyrim is probably the most replayable one just because of how many mods there are, and it's only getting better. These 3 games have all gotten me through some tough times, and it's bizarre to think that I've come back to play these games so many times over. I don't know if I'm alone in that and with these specific games. If you also do this but with other games, let me know in the comments what those are for you. What games have you been coming back to play over and over again?
Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Thank you so